Hello, and welcome to the Man Down Podcast. My name is Ted Knutson. I'm joined as ever by lovable co-host Patrick Van Straten. Today, we're reader powered, as always. We're going to talk about the main activity that we do that benefits our mental well-being, which I think is a really good question. We're also going to talk about arguments with your spouse and how you make sure that even if you're better at arguing than they are feeling like they're heard and understood. Sometimes we get lost in trying to win the fight when that's a very bad way to go. We're also going to talk a little bit about the negative impact on dating of social media from a reader question. I think we have a pretty even split on that one. We think apps are probably good though, so it's nice to date lots of different potential people anyway. And we're also going to talk about the best first date activity on a ranked list that Patrick produced. I think that you should never do this one thing. Stay tuned. Patrick,
Yes.
you went to Copenhagen recently. What did you think?
I liked it. I enjoyed myself. I ate a lot of hot dogs. I ate a lot of pastries. I enjoy both those things.
A lot of hot dogs? Did you go to Chicago?
It's a hot dog place. Did you not know this about Copenhagen? I didn't actually know this about Copenhagen, so I don't know why I'm acting like I'm being like my daughter where she learns a thing and then 10 minutes later she's like, you didn't know this? Like, fucking stupid. But yeah, like hot dogs are a big thing. Like obviously I guess like the pig is king. And yeah, so I ate a lot of hot dogs walking, standing, everywhere I went. Even though I was trying to dress nicely, I was also like trying to dodge the mustard that I was dropping constantly. But
you were
yeah,
dogging it.
I was dogging it. Hot dogs wrapped in bacon. But I don't know if I told you this, but the one thing that I object to in Danish hot dog technology is that the way that they put the dog in the bun is that quite often they'll get the bun. There's no way to mime this that isn't like quite graphic. And they get a sort of, I don't know what, an implement. They get a plunger. Let's call it that. And they just start like ramming. Like they just start ramming the bread down. So they kind of like ram down until they hit the bread cervix. And then they just like feed the dog in. And
the worst part of this was like you couldn't even say plunger, and I was like, "Is this some sort of gynecological instrument?" And then you just continued on. Oh God! I hope that no one ever has an exam like this.
But it means that you eat your way down the dog, and then there's always like a couple of inches of bread left at the bottom, which the dog could not penetrate, and that I find to be an error. Like I think that maybe there is scope for improvement there, Denmark, but I ate a lot of hot dogs and just really good, like, just like a nice spicy mustard.
Yeah.
Incredible.
You had pig wrapped in pig, is what you're telling me too, which hard to go wrong with that.
And then inside another pig, like, because I'd had like 4 in a row. I was eating so many hot dogs.
This is like maximum turducken.
Yeah. Pigs on pigs on pigs. But yeah, I ate a lot of hot dogs. And then I had, I had so many pastries, man. So good.
I'm going to be there this weekend, and I think I'm gonna get in at least 2 runs to try and and maybe some cycling in order to try and defray the calorie massive spike that I'm taking. I've just gotten back to being like healthy after COVID in California, and obviously like travel just always ruins it for you. But thankfully, it's only one time zone away, so not so bad. We're starting this episode light because this is another reader powered episode. But like you guys like to hear our adventures. Weirdly enough, I got this. So there's somebody that's like trying to sell themselves as like a potential guest on our podcast, and they're trying to sell themselves. I don't know. I can't tell if it's like TTF or Man Down or whatever, but literally as part of their intro email, as like sort of suggesting they should be a guest, they took the story about the Taiwanese mafia don at a boy band concert, and they used that as like, you clearly have taken something from the podcast. I was like, it's such a weird way. Like, you're definitely listening to enough of us. Like, you would know that you don't fit in this podcast at all, but yet I'm glad. Hopefully, everybody else enjoyed the mafia don story as well.
I didn't know that people were pitching themselves as guests. Like, if it is that Taiwanese mafia don, then I'll have him on as a guest.
Well,
like, that'd be great.
Obviously, yeah, 100%. Like, if 100%, like if you like get in touch through people that know people, and just for validation purposes, and we'll do that. Or we can just do a FaceTime. That's fine too.
Yeah, I think that would probably be preferable.
I kind of remember enough of that guy and he can remind me of which boy band it was. Like, then that'll sort of like connect all the dots there.
Somebody should be able to work that out. If you know which boy band it was, if you can go back and listen to the episode and work out from the context clues like which boy band it was, then please do get in touch. We would appreciate that. That'd be great.
Yeah, same trip as when Zhang Ji was at I think it was Mandarin Oriental in Singapore, but who knows?
Nice. Shall we do some listener questions?
If you want to, I find these like slightly optional. Like we could just question each other. I don't even know.
If you've got any questions, come on, then come at me, man. Like I'm always open to a question. Like that's fine. But I mean, we do have some questions. Like there's this top one that I think is interesting.
Okay.
This is from Big Trade 25, and he
We're being
says, like
topped here.
Patrick, I'm a better arguer than my wife. We've been together long enough that we both know it. Early in our relationship, she even used to point it out. So when we argue, I like to first acknowledge when I'm in the wrong or I've made mistakes before arguing, or I acknowledge her feelings where she's coming from before going into my arguments. So he's trying to give her the floor first, and really, I guess, like, make the entry point to the argument a bit softer. Obviously, I'm not perfect with this. I don't want to
Is this about
manipulate
hot
my
dogs
wife.
again?
Stop it. Or have her feeling hopeless that she cannot win an argument. Man, that is kind of funny. It's like I don't want to make you feel hopeless that you could not possibly best me in the gladiatorial arena. But if this is this the correct approach, or are there better ones? Is really what he's asking. Ted, what do you think first of all about this as an operating procedure?
So the whole point of this is to make your partner feel seen, heard, and understood, right? Like, and an argument is to then try and let each other be heard. And then in some cases you can't resolve it, but at least you understand the other person's perspective. And then in other cases you kind of try to take actions that help acknowledge and maybe shift towards the other person's perspective. And just because you're an argumentative asshole who's good at it, as you point out, doesn't mean that you're always right. And that's like a really crucial component here. Acknowledging that, like, just because I'm good at arguments doesn't mean I'm right about all of our issues, like, is a big deal. And then acknowledging when your partner has been right, and then hopefully listening to them kind of acknowledge, although I sometimes have not had this in my relationships, where you've been right. Some people find that very hard. I have dated a couple of very competitive people or married, and like, man, that was the competitive ability to like just admit when you might have been correct. Like, it's a meme on social media for a reason. Yeah. So again, it's hard to do these things in the heat of the moment, but I think you're kind of on the right track here, which is, first of all, please tell me what's going on here. Second of all, like, you might need to just divorce yourself a little bit from this stuff. Like, if you're really good at XYZ, but your point is not the arguing bit, your point is, how do I acknowledge you and what the problem is? Like, that's much more the focus of where I would be. Now, you obviously, one, being quite good at arguing, I probably am too. But then two, being on the therapy side, like, please tell people what you think.
I think this is great. I think so long as you're doing it in the way that you say you're doing it, I think this is great. It's interesting to me that you're worried about the possibility of manipulating your wife here. Your wife may not be good at arguing, but that doesn't mean that she's a stupid person. I think she could probably tell if she's being manipulated here. The one issue is that I think it could end up being a kind of like just a vague like head tilt towards fairness. Like, I think it'd be possible to say like, yeah, I acknowledge your feelings. I know that that's how you feel right now. I hear that. But also, and then just launch into your argument. Like, if you're employing it in that way, then yeah, I don't think that's going to be helpful. But if you are really thinking about her perspective, if you're really recognizing where she's coming from before you go into it, if you're acknowledging, look, I know that I did do this and I did do this, but then I think that that's going to be really, really helpful for your relationship, not just to help her because she's not argumentative, but it's also presumably going to remind you that there is not a clear delineation between sides in this conversation. That you are actually trying to figure something out rather than simply trying to win. That's a good reminder.
One of the things that surprised me and continues to surprise me, actually, I think there's a couple of them, like in kind of the last couple of years. One is that repeating someone's perspective to them, especially like what they've said, what they're trying to get you to acknowledge, and saying those things aloud, has a pretty big impact. And especially if you're not doing it in a patronizing way. If you're like, look, let me just make sure that I understand that this is what you're trying to express and this is what you want me to get out of it. And then we can go forward from there, right? Like, that's actually like, because as you've said before, sometimes you just want your wife to acknowledge the thing. It's like, I'm not even mad about this. I'm just irritated about the situation that we were put in. And then I can like move on from it. But I need it to be acknowledged. Right. That's one big one. The other one is the power that voice notes or voicemails have on your partner or your mom or like whomever. Like just hearing your voice and your tone, like it actually has like a physical impact on people at times. And I have the same thing. Like somebody who I'm attracted to like sends me a lovely voice note and you're like, wow, yeah, thank you so much. Like I actually really enjoyed listening to you today. Both of these things I think are combined into it. Like sometimes they just need to have their point acknowledged and so that you say it and you understand it. That is often like the crux of the whole thing. Sometimes they're real arguments, but other times it's just like, look, I just need you to fucking understand my point and maybe apologize for like whatever thing that you've done. And so this is all part of that kind of process there. And when you're arguing, when you're focused on the argument point, you're often not trying to acknowledge their point. so,
Yeah.
sometimes you're like wiping out the thing that they actually need you to do by like jousting and fencing with the defensibility of whatever their perspective is, and that's a huge negative for you.
Yeah, it's kind of the same way that, debate is often seen as a way for people to have an argument. In reality, it's not. The argument that you're supposedly having is never what's going on in the debate. The debate is about other things. It's about process and skill in different kind of ideas. It's not really about trying to figure out the issue at the heart. And similarly, arguments that you have with your partner are very often not you figuring out the problem that you're having. It's I want to win, you want to win. Let's see who manages it. So I think this is a really good approach, but I'm not really the best judge here. Like the best judge is like your wife. Does your wife feel heard? Does your wife feel like you are giving her an entry point into these arguments? Are your arguments better? Are they ameliorated by the fact that you are taking this approach? If they are, it's working for you. If you both feel heard, then I'm in no position to criticize it, and I don't really know why I would. Lots of people do this. Some couples as well swear by like hugging before they start an
Mm.
argument. Anything that kind of, as you're saying, Ted, like promotes your bonding, your kind of bonding hormones, your oxytocin to come in. It's gonna make it harder to see them as the enemy. And let's be honest, when you're in a relationship, and I've got to say, especially when you're in a marriage, it is easy to forget sometimes that the other person is not the enemy, but the issue is the enemy. The problem is the enemy. And you need your ally against it. So I think this is great. Like, I really like this. And I would also say, though, that I would hope in the long run that your wife would also be more comfortable arguing with her. Because the other thing that we don't want here is that you trying to give a little bit of her perspective and then giving your perspective, that doesn't mean that she doesn't also voice it herself. Like, we want her to kind of like develop her ability to handle the conflict. I would maybe couple this with a conversation with her about like what conflict means to her, like what's going on for her when things get heated. I don't know how you argue. Maybe your voice gets loud, maybe you stand up and walk around, maybe she has a history with the way that with the way that men get when they are angry. Like there's all this kind of shit that I think is worth having a look at as well, just to try and diffuse the situation still further.
It's a little meta alongside your point, but like having a conversation about how you argue, like in a relaxed setting, is very valuable to both of you in whatever partnership that you have.
Hmm. Okay, next question. I want you to. This is really a question for you. Okay. So Dragon Moon 1598 says, "What do you say is the difference between lacking a connection slash not vibing versus being nervous and overthinking?" I would think that you would want to do a 2 date minimum approach with most people because we're in that heightened state of anxiety in the first date. What do you think about that? I mean, I guess there are a couple of different questions here, but essentially the question seems to be about how we can get in our way when we're trying to forge a connection with somebody.
This is true. I don't tend to get nervous on my first dates. I might have done that before, but I've dated enough and kind of relaxed myself from the the outcome of dates. Like it's very much about the process and enjoying the process. Chris Lakin, who I've mentioned a couple times on here, like has this whole he does really interesting type therapeutic coaching, but not therapy type stuff. He comes at it from a very different perspective. It's about solving people's problems. A lot of things about anxiety into security. But one of the ones his approach is basically that flirtation and first dates is revealing. It's not trying to attract, right? Like, because if you went on a series of dates, and a lot of this is about making sure that you spend your time efficaciously, like you want to make sure that you're efficient in your time spent in the dating space or anywhere else. But if you go on a date and like you're kind of like trying to make sure that the person's attracted to you and you want to fit into like whatever their person shaped hole is, and so you're like, submerging yourself and trying to shape yourself towards them. And I actually remember like a beautiful woman that I went on a couple dates with that I ended up being very good friends with. She's like, yeah, I kind of adapt to the person that I'm with, and like, that I try to form myself in like whatever they're attracted to. I was like, that's a horrible way to go about things. Like
Mm,
that's that's so bad. Like, because one, like you're trying to fool them into not seeing you. Two, you're not being your full self, right? And that's what you're trying to do here. So I'm not nervous about the first dates because I'm going to be myself and I'm going to find out if they're attracted to me. And I'm hoping that they're themselves and I can find out if I'm attracted to them. That is like the way to go through this. Because at some point, if you have a long term relationship, they're going to be themselves. And that, like, if you don't like that person, or if they see yourself and they're like, ugh, like you've wasted so much time, so much time. And the other way that he talks about going through the dating process is, imagine that someone really attracted was there and they didn't like you at all and you had to keep going out with them. Like, what a horrible situation that would be. Like, it's like oil and water. Like, you cannot intermingle properly. You're just forced to sit there with this person that like you're not actually sort of attracted to in any way other than the physical way. And in fact, like, it might just be like gross. And in some cases it is. Like, being with a false person that's attractive like feels very gross in my situation. So
mm,
bringing this back around, once you get used to that perspective from dating and you're relaxed about who you are and you want to reveal yourself and you want to flirt with the person in like a fun way, but also like you're looking for their responses to your flirtation and who you are, and you're trying to pick up on who they are, then you're like, okay, we're in a different space. And this whole like first date nervousness, like, tends to dissipate a little bit and you're more about the revealing space. But the second clause in the suggestion is really important here too. I have taken the perspective of, oh, maybe there should be second dates. Like, maybe
mm,
most of the time these second dates are going to be better from a nervousness perspective or not. And every time that I have had a first date where I was very on the fence or slightly negative, but maybe something was weird was going on or whatever, and I had a second date after that, like, it ended up being worse or didn't work out. Like, the my signal, because I think I've dated enough and able to like
mhm.
understand people and understand my interest in people, is pretty strong from that first date. Now, sometimes that first date could be like 15 or 30 minutes, like you have a coffee because like that's all you had or something like that. That's different.
Yeah, yeah.
But like if you're in a real kind of depth of conversation, you have like, an hour meal or like 90 minutes or whatever, one of you has to have like some level of attraction to the other one, and it should be somewhat revealing to each other. And if that's true, then like maybe you've got enough of a connection to continue forward. If both of you were kind of like on the fence or negative, like, just trust the signal. Like, there's lots and lots of other people out there, and the times that I've had magic, like, it's really sparkly for me. I feel those connections in quite a deep way. I'm like, wow, this person's fascinating. It doesn't mean that continues for the long term, but it at least continues for the short and the medium term. And those are the things that I try and pursue.
Okay. It's interesting because as an outsider, I'd have thought, yeah, 2 dates kind of does seem like a good idea, like 2 date minimum.
It might be in the early days when you're still trying to figure out who you are, or who you reveal, and what you're interested in. But like if you've dated, pretty consistently for a while and you have a decent kind of internal compass on that, like you should be able to sort through things faster in situations of legitimate connection.
Mm. But I mean, otherwise, like what my feelings on this are very similar to what you said. I think nervous and overthinking, like that to me is concern about being good enough, right?
Hmm.
It's concern about status to some degree, and that is just going to make you far more likely to go out and people please. And yeah, then you're just testing for something other than the thing you want to test for. You're testing whether you are capable of like pleasing this person, of molding yourself into the form that they'll like, rather than whether they're going to be a good partner for you. I mean, it just somebody not liking you is really not the worst outcome. Like, it feels like it is, but it really isn't. The worst outcome is getting locked into a situation where you're being somebody that you're not with somebody who treats you like shit. Like, that sounds like an actual disaster to me.
You don't have any control over someone liking you or not. This is what you need to realize. Like, it's fundamentally outside of your control. Like, these are, you're meeting a person you've never met before, like, or maybe you've met them in other situations. You don't know like really what they're interested in. Like, it's nice that they took a chance on a date. That's great, but like everything else that flows from there, like, should be you being a person and then them being a person and seeing how that works. I will say though that like sometimes I've heard of people who go on dates and like the person was kind of distracted by work or stuff like that. And then, they ended up having things on their phone. And like, it's possible that there will be situations where they were not fully present in the date. That's also a mistake on the person's part who wasn't fully present, though. Like, if you're going on a date, you should value the other person's time enough to like really give them that opportunity for connection. And if you can't do that, like, yes, maybe you can give them a second date, especially if they're interesting in all these other ways. Maybe you've had really good communications like over the phone or over text, but you haven't necessarily been able to do that in person. There has to be enough smoke there to potentially start a fire. But also, if you're the type of person who goes on these dates and you're not committing like real time to the person and real attention to the person that you're with, and you're on your phone regularly, fuck off, because like that's not how to go about it. Like, your process is wrong and you're not giving the person the respect of their time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you said that you don't get nervous before first dates, but do you prepare for them at all?
How do you prepare for them?
I don't know. Like, some people, I guess, like, my think about whether there are some questions that they have in their back pocket or some things that they want to get answered. They might, I don't know, maybe think about whether they need an out at a certain point if it's going badly. I don't really know. Like, I remember kind of trying to prepare for dates to some degree, like get into the right kind of zone. Like, I would watch something or like that would like relax me or get me in a kind of like sharper mood, I thought.
I think I'm usually excited to meet people, and especially attractive people. So like I think that's good. I'm usually switched on to that because I like the initial process. I don't research people because I feel like that's
Mm,
uncomfortable in a lot of ways, especially from a man researching a woman. Like, that's like, yes, look at their profile, right? Like, whatever they're revealing to you in their profile, fine. But like, don't try and like scout their Insta or like their LinkedIn or
mm,
anything else like that. And some people have, revealing clues inside of their profiles, inside of their photos and stuff. I try and dodge that, not least because like it happens to me in reverse much more often, where like once somebody gets my name, women will generally look you up because, for safety reasons. Totally respect that. But then all of a sudden, like, it feels like I'm at a big information disadvantage, and like they're like slowly poking and prodding at bits and pieces, and I'm like, well, this is a different game, but I will play and see how much fun it is. But yeah, no, I don't think that there's much in the prep work because I'm just excited to meet people in general. And if you're lucky enough to go out with somebody attractive, that and you go out for something you like or something they like, then great, enjoy the time. But I don't think there's much I can do to make it immediately better. I think I can be there in the moment and listen to them and find out things that they're interested in. Ask questions is a big one, right? So like, I
mhm.
don't have questions ahead of time, but maybe I find out things immediately where I'm like, oh, that's a fun line. Let's go down that road or that road or that road and find out more about them.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like, to go back to something we've said before as well, like, if there are things that you want to test for, then you can go in with that prepared, but just make sure you're testing for the thing you think you're testing for, you know?
Mhm.
Like, are they going to be fun to be around? Are they kind? Are they a misogynist? Like, definitely, I think if you're going to date men, it might be worth having like a misogynist test in your
That's someone
mind.
who's good at massage, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yes. It's someone who's good at massaging women.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
Is it misandry is when you're good at massaging men.
For those of you not playing the game, I'm sorry that you listened to that.
All right, what have we got next?
So we're kind of skipping this question about long distance relationships. I just wanted to tell people that we have already done long distance relationships. They're in past episodes. I just don't have much extra to say, but I did want to thank you for the compliment because it says, "Hey, Patrick and Ted, I love this show. Thank you. Your podcast is like a warm hug from a big brother." I would say Patrick's hugs are always warm. Mine kind of vary depending on how cold it is outside. So yeah.
Appreciate that.
Hmm.
Okay. So yeah, we'll skip over that, but look, long distance relationships, yeah, you can look up what we said before. This one says, do you think social media has a more positive or negative impact on dating? For context, I've learnt and taken in a lot of healthy information around dating, relationships, sex, but I've also heard a number of horror stories, to the point that I'm leery to pursue dating as I've developed an irrational fear of becoming a victim. For perspective, I'm 40 and gay. I can only imagine what it's like for the younger generation and women in general. Ted, what do you reckon?
I think social media as a whole is bad. And I say this as
Yeah.
someone who has had awesome experiences and met people from social media strictly via that. Like Patrick and I would not know each other, have hired most of my company from social media, most of my last company from social media as well. So I am one of the good stories, but like most people and how they're wired is very, very bad for them. If you find yourself being switched into, irrational fears of becoming a victim, like that's not the way the world is operated for most of history, and you should just get off of social media or stop listening to people that talk about the horrible dates. You and I think, enjoy people's horrible dates. Like, it's fun for us, and so
Mm.
because it's fun, we get to participate in a way that's positive via this medium. But if your mentality and how your brain operates turns all the shit into the negative, get rid of it, filter it better. Like, put positive things into your feeds as much as possible. Has it had a positive or negative impact on dating? What do you think from an outside before I circle back around and like tell my opinion?
I find it hard to see how it would be positive, really. Like, I mean, okay, there might be the odd kernel of wisdom here or there, but you're also getting that from somebody who is not having a face to face conversation with you. You know, it's something that's being delivered into an enormous market with the aim of getting clicks. Like, the aim
Mm.
is not necessarily to say something that is true. The aim is to say something that gets interaction. The incentives are just misaligned here. Whereas at least if you have a conversation with a friend or a family member or a therapist or whoever, there's going to be some human to human care there. I guess, look, okay, for somebody who's gay, especially if you live in an area where there might not be that many out gay people, I can totally see how that could be helpful, how there it could give you access to people. Though there, I think when we're talking about social media, we might be talking about like message boards or subreddits or something rather than, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. To me, it seems anecdotally like the quantity of bullshit and damaging nonsense vastly outweighs the quantity of useful, helpful, and well considered interventions.
I think that if you are judicious in paying attention to the people that you follow and the people that you filter for, and you don't allow yourself to absorb any of the things that go viral, because viral goes things go viral from a negative perspective so much more often than they do in the positives. Like, it's great when you see the positive stuff, but like, it's pretty unusual. Then you're okay, right? So like, if you're sticking to things that you have curated that
Hmm.
are in your space that you want to see, then almost all those people should be positive. And if they're irritating to you, like, you should be filtering them out. Like if somebody's obnoxious, either in the comments, like I'm very judicious about blocking people that I think are being obnoxious in my in my social
Same.
media, like
Yeah.
GTFO. I would not allow a human being on the street to irritate me in that way, or in a room to irritate me that way. So like, I'm not going to allow you to do it on the internet as well. If you stick to that set of principles, then you're in good shape. But if you allow yourself to be led by the algorithms and to constantly interact with the negative social media, like, you're just doing yourself a disservice. And I think that's a little bit of what we're seeing here. Beyond that, I would say that I think the apps have actually been a positive for
Hmm.
dating in their optimal form, because they are much more connective to audiences that we haven't had before. You're able to filter in better ways than you ever have been before. Like, you can have just gay apps, like, that gives you more breadth than you would have had previously. You can find people that are introverted, which you again much tougher to find in most normal social circumstances before. All of that is a net positive in the optimal form. Now, obviously, the way that the apps have been monetized and sort of trying to rinse every little nickel, dime, etc., off of their users has been more negative, but the apps are fine. The social media thing as a positive, negative, and dating, like, you just got to be careful about how you filter stuff and what you follow and what you allow your brain to absorb. And if it's not positive enough, if you find yourself anxious enough, possibly create new accounts that you just put in positive things there. Like, so get rid of all that
Hmm.
bullshit from the past, like create just positive feeds. I think that that might be quite a useful thing for you, because In my circumstances, I have learned a ton from social media via finding and then curating, and then these things get dripped into my feeds that are useful. Like Jillian Turecki's thing, like centers me on a regular basis. Like she's on Instagram, she talks about like dating and sometimes about your past and about like people who don't commit to you, or like it's just a lot of good advice around relationships with other people, and I find that to be great. And I found a few different ones like this, and sometimes it's about your parents or your children. Like, Patrick, have you ever cried at a social media post?
Yeah, but not anything like that. It's always like, I don't know. I don't want to change the mood, but it's always like, a picture of some kid starving or something. I'm just like, I can't deal with this shit.
The negative stuff, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes for me it's like a warmth and an openness to appreciate the world, or like what you have, and sometimes like remembering the things that you have, and your perspective is like so valuable, because yes, exactly that way, like the negatives again sort of lend perspective. Anyway, as a long-winded thing about social media and problems, but like if you find social media to be a problem for you, either recurate your stuff so you see positive stuff, or GTFO, because like don't let unhealthy shit be in your life.
Yeah, I think that this is the one thing that I'd like to add to this, which is that this fear of becoming a victim, like you recognize that it's irrational. You need to remind yourself of that, and you need to find a way then to fight against it. If you know that it's irrational, then that should be the first step towards you working to overcome it, because allowing yourself to give up the possibility of finding somebody you want to date because of a fear that you know is not founded in reality, you're costing yourself a huge amount of potential pleasure there, kind of in return for nothing, in return for security that you had anyway. This is definitely something where I'd consider talking to somebody about it. Of course, there are going to be horror stories, but if you have this propensity to believe that the world is a bad and dangerous place, then Ted's right. You need to be really, really careful about stoking those fears by exposing yourself to social media that's going to confirm it. If you want to find stories that tell you how the world's a dangerous place, you can. In the same way that, if you have a headache and you want to find people telling you that it is a life-threatening condition, you can find that information. I would not advise it. So do be wary of your social media consumption if you do have these tendencies. And if you notice these tendencies being exaggerated by social media, then yeah, you've absolutely got to do something about it, because social media is not the world, and the world has dark in it and it also has light in it. And you might need to fill yourself up on good things to outweigh the natural tendency to over focus on bad things.
So many people I know either take breaks or completely get off of social media and tell me that like their lives are dramatically improved. And yeah, I think at some point we should listen to that.
Yeah.
What is your main activity that benefits your mental well-being? I like this question a lot.
Well, I mean, it's a good follow on, isn't it? Because actually, for a long time, I don't have like the Twitter app on my phone. I will like load it up in a browser
Mm-hmm.
to make me less likely to go to it. And so I would delete Instagram, and I deleted the Twitter app, and like those things, I do that from time to time. I kind of have to follow Twitter for work to some degree, which is a bit of a pain, but that I have found helpful. Certainly with Instagram, when I was in my late 20s, Instagram made me fucking miserable, like really miserable. And so I would take breaks from it, and now it doesn't bother me at all. And I also kind of curate what I look at. Exercise is definitely one. I sleep better when I exercise. I feel better. Like it's kind of a double whammy in that regard. It also, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling angry, like really good for getting all the kind of high energy things out of your system. We
Yeah.
also know that it's really good for depression. Like every now and then I see one of these threads on social media that's like, my therapist told me to, go for a walk to cure my depression. And everyone's like, wow, what a shitty therapist. And I'm kind of like, yeah, but actually exercise is really good for depression. Like it
They
is
have
really good for
prescribed
depression.
literally one of the top 3 things for you that helps improve your depression. I didn't say cure, but improve
Yeah.
your depressive feelings. Like it's top 3. Like
If you
one is
frame it like
dance,
that.
one is
Yeah, sure.
dance.
Which is the same thing. Like if you frame it this way, that you're like, my therapist said I could cure depression with dance, then like, yeah, you're gonna sound like a fucking idiot. But if what your therapist actually said is, did you know that you can produce hormones in your body that make you feel good by moving your body energetically? Then that is a literal scientific fact, and it has been shown to be the case again and again. So exercise is definitely one. What else do we do? Honestly, one big part of it is taking care of my sleep, and
Mhm.
then forcing myself to stay in touch with people, because I'm bad at doing that. I'm really bad at doing that.
That hit home there. That's
It's so easily avoided, right? Like, so many of us, you're just like, well, I know that friendship's fine. I know that if I see him in like 3 months, that it will be fine. Or, oh my God, it's like a Wednesday and I've got to do this and I've got this busy morning, Thursday morning. Like, fuck that. Like, it's this whole like complicated thing. And then you just go and force yourself to go and see somebody sometime, and you think, oh, I felt great after that. I felt really good after I did that. You know, I remember before we had our meetup, right? I was just like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, how's this going to go? Like, I don't know how many people are going to come. Are enough people going to come? They were going to be like fucking nerds, like, not as cool as me.
I
But
didn't think that. He thought that.
yeah, I thought that. But what I really mean is, I was like, is this going to be enjoyable? Am I going to be interesting? Are people going to be glad they came? All that kind of stuff. And then afterwards, I was like, that was great. I had so many interesting conversations, and I walked away feeling really, really good. And
I feel like next time we should book people for 30-minute slots. Like we can book, like you and I are going to sit there and we'll book like a group of 4 other people. We'll have a 6-person chat. And then like when your time's out, then we get it like another 4 and another 4. And we get to have like conversations like that. As opposed to like, there was some point where it was just like, I cannot pay. There's so many people. And I feel like maybe we can like book sort of little therapy slots, or just chat slots, just jib
sure,
jab slots, and then they can go outside and have their own, and like we'll continue to have like our own little thing. So like there are just different ways to do this, but it's really fun, and I liked all the interactions too. Maybe it's a 4-person, but no, that you need. Yeah. Anyway, we'll figure it out. But I totally agree. And whenever I go out and I do kind of the in-person stuff, especially when I'm not hosting like a giant conference, like I do find myself really enjoying it, and I should do it more often, even though my life doesn't directly lend itself to that. My answers: workout, definitely. Like, and sometimes I'm like, why am I a little peaky today? Like, because I haven't worked out yet. Aha, let me go do that. Let me try and resolve that issue in even just like the smallest form.
yeah,
Sometimes a workout is like just yoga for me, right? Like, so like that's not intense, but it is allowing my body to stretch out, and it's getting just a little bit of core, and it's getting a temperature. And workout sauna, and the sauna is twofold for me because it's meditative. So like I don't have any input on my sauna except for like I have my phone that's there, and it's got a timer on it, and I put it on the bottom so it doesn't overheat, and I try and just let myself think and drift and work through stuff and sweat, and that's glorious. Walks are good. Like dog walks are great. I love like just sort of the having some music in my ears and walking the dog and just wandering, especially in this time of year. I love autumnal periods,
yeah,
to be able to do that. Those 3 things create space in kind of what you're seeing, either in your thoughts or in your in space. So you're on a walk or sort of out in nature, and then activity of your body like helps regulate all of those chemicals and endorphins and things that you need to
mm,
regulate all the time, and helps you process toxins as well. So I think those are the biggest ones. I even walk to and from work regardless of the weather, as I can't imagine a day without it. This is good. This is good.
yeah.
And people
That's good.
people who are not doing this, like you should. Some people are cyclists. I don't. Bikes are fine, but meh, whatever. But yeah,
What you mentioned the sauna there. Like, I like the hot tub for that. Like, the hot tub, I find my brain switches off. My father-in-law has a hot tub like in their garden, so I go in that. But when you were talking about listening to music, it reminded me, like, what do you think about the way that we consume things? Because like, I find that when I listen to music, okay, sometimes it relaxes me, but I've found that I get much better benefits if I try and listen to an album from start to finish in order, rather than having a playlist that dots around. In the same way that, some days I will sit and read before bed, and sometimes it will be a novel that I'm reading, kind of slowly, and other times I'm reading a bunch of short articles. and I feel like much more relaxed when it's the long form thing that I'm consuming more slowly than the short form things that are kind of like all little bits of information jabbing into my brain.
I don't typically read music or listen to music to relax. I
Hmm.
do agree with you on the long form. I've been thinking that more recently. I've been needing to listen to more albums of people that I like. Although like it sort of gets like drip fed into your algorithm over time if you listen to things that like have some element of random about them. So like, you know, the first 20 songs of this are sort of like on a theme and then like the list just drifts as it goes. But I like it because it introduces me to more music.
Hmm.
And usually like my process for music is like finding more music that I might like. And many times I find the albums are often not great. And this is like a long-term history of mine. You're like, oh, there's two good songs on here. And I just listened to 10 like songs and eight of those are a bit rubbish. So like if you've got a very high album gradient, that's really good. But there's so much music out there that you could discover that you might really like that's sort of my process. So for example, I have about 300 songs on my 2025 singles list. These are songs that I thought were good enough to keep listening to on a regular basis. Doesn't always mean they came out this year, but this is the year that either they were important
Sure.
to me or and at the end of the year, I'll cut that back down and I'll pass it out to my friends as like sort of my curated gift to people of like these 75 were songs that I really thought were good and you might listen to them. But I like the random factor. And in order to have like enough mass on that, I have to listen to a lot of music.
Hmm.
So that is not album based. That is much more sort of breadth based and shallow.
Okay, sure. I'd be intrigued to hear one of your playlists. I don't know what you listen to be honest.
Mm. My playlist would not be cool enough for you right now. That's that is definitely a cool vibe about.
I think with music, like we all have an idea of what we would like to like, and then what we actually like,
Mhm.
and they're never quite the same thing.
So I am dating somebody, and we were on holiday, and there was my kids, and like my 2022 playlist I was listening to, and like different cuts. And this year has been a lot of breakup music, country music, like stuff that's softer, definitely more low key.
Hmm.
My 21, 22 was a lot more hip hop, a lot more reggaeton, stuff that had beats to it and like oomph about it. And we were driving and like a couple of these came up and she's like, "Huh, I see like more of your musical taste than I had really experienced recently," because she's only known me for the last 6 months. And so yeah, it's been life goes through eras and music is often the soundtrack to those eras for me.
I love the idea of it going from like really down tempo, like sad break. I imagine you going from like Mazzy Star to like Gasolina. Like,
Gasolina is not on that because I have listened to that song enough, but you are definitely in the same vein. And when I was in Miami and Curacao, like both of those are reggaeton places, like you know, Bad Buddy's on there, La Yompa. There's stuff that I like that I think is good. I think I got my kids into a negative with their Spanish teacher one time because neither of my older two particularly like their Spanish teacher, and I went to a parent teacher conference, and you know the teacher was giving my son advice on like he needs to work harder on Spanish and this and that, and like maybe listen to some music. And I was like, oh, like Rosalia or Bad Bunny, and she like got this face like she just sucked on a lemon. She's like, maybe more appropriate music for your son.
what did she want him to listen to? Like Julio Iglesias or something? Like, calm down, come on.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, the lyrics to all those things in Spanish is usually about having sex anyway. So there we are.
Sure. And Rosalia's great.
I
Shut up,
think so
Spanish
too.
teacher.
Hmm. I'm
Okay,
with you.
should we wrap up with a little exercise then? Because we did the highest to lowest thing a few weeks ago, and I've got one more here, which is about first date activities. Seeing as we've had a little conversation about dating today, so I need you to rank these as first date activities: walk, cinema, dinner, gallery/museum, coffee.
First date.
First date.
Very important thing here. First date versus other dates. So coffee and walk are excellent first date,
Hmm.
especially if the walk is not like hike walk, like you're like on a 5 miler with somebody, but like let's go walk in a pretty area that has a relatively constrained amount of time. Because first dates are for like finding out, do you vibe for a bit, like do they actually look like their pictures? do is everything true or not? Was I being catfished? You know, are they a large man who actually is a linebacker, but was just trying to prank you? So the coffee concept means that there's less pressure, right? Let's have a coffee or maybe like a drink, shorter period of time. If it then extends into something because you like each other, great. But you've like depressurized a lot of that stuff. So walk and coffee, excellent. I like a brunch date as well. I like
Okay.
a morning time brunch date. Like you're getting into like the good parts of the day. You find somebody like, do they have energy or not? Sometimes you find somebody who's hungover at your brunch date and you're like, interesting. Tell me your story of like your last night. So first date is the crucial component here. I actually really like coffee walk first. I think I like gallery museum right after that. Like it's a very
Yeah.
narrow band here because you're getting a lot of input and you can vibe off of it. You can learn a lot and you can have impressions, but you don't have to look at each other the whole time either. So like, you can wander, you can ask questions, you can be like you're in a movie of like some of your favorite rom-coms and you just
Yeah.
like have these drifty times. I think dinner's pretty good. I don't think dinner is bad. Cinema is by far like a million miles to the bottom of this fucking list as a first date. Horrible, horrible idea. Don't do that. Like you're actually trying to learn what this person's like, not like to watch a movie.
I think the cinema I've never understood as like a date location. But I actually think watching a film with somebody as well can be quite a stressful experience,
Mm-hmm.
because like you like it, they don't, or the other way around, like they don't laugh at the right bits, you're pissed off, or they're just like, oh my god, this is so weird, like shut the fuck up. I have no interest in doing that. Dinner as well, yeah, like you say, first date. The problem with dinner is you order and then the date starts going badly, like you are stuck there for quite some time. And at least with all the others you can just kind of walk out. But what do you think about when we're talking about walk versus coffee, like there's one of them is parallel and one of them is face to face, right? Like what do you think the benefits are of those?
I like the combination of the two. Like, unless the weather's terrible, but I still like the idea of a couple of these are like sort of daytime dates as well. Like, do something different. I've talked to people that they will not accept pub dates anymore. They're like, nope, I'm not going to go to your local pub or like drinking with you at your pub. Like, this is not an acceptable first time date for me. Like, you need to be more creative than that. You need to get out of that box that you're at. Like, it's your home territory. There's like lots of really good reasons that they have articulated on why they don't do that. Dinner, I'm fine with, especially if I've got good vibes from it, but don't do a tasting menu, which I have done horribly wrong. And somebody drank a whole bottle of something at the tasting menu, and I was like, ooh, okay, this is. I don't know if you're really nervous about me or if you're actually an alcoholic, but like, yeah, this is not good. Yeah, so I like the ones that you've got energy, you can walk, you can interact.
Hmm.
Stimulus is in here. Coffee's a natural stimulus. Often with your walks, you've got things there too. We're combining our healthy activities that we talked
Hmm.
about before too. That's my perspective on all these, and I would never take somebody to the cinema for the first date.
Sure. I also think I think standing up outfits are cuter than sitting down outfits.
See,
That's
I
my
hadn't
opinion.
even thought the fashion perspective.
Yeah, like if you're walking outside, I think often, especially at this time of year, as you were saying, the big coat is like an all-purpose outfit enhancer. Like the big coat makes everybody look good. And this way you can really curate your outfit. Whereas you go into the cafe and you're like, you don't know how hot it's going to be. You start to take jackets off and all this kind of stuff. It gets all complicated. You go out, then you can just curate your outfit for the day, for the weather that day, and you'll look sick like that. And in the gallery and museum as well. You can walk around pretending like you're Rene Russo in the Thomas Crown Affair,
Absolutely.
and you'll feel like a 10.
And
So
also all of the artwork is like going to accessorize you. So like there's nothing wrong with that. What is your feeling about a short skirt and a long jacket?
it's always good. Always
Yeah.
good.
Just wanted to check. It's also a good song, but yeah.
A short skirt is always good. It takes a lot to turn me against a short skirt, I will say, But yeah, the long dramatic coat, and men like, okay, this is like my tip for men. Men always get coats that are too short. Men get these coats that end at the thigh, or sometimes they end at the knee. No, go longer, longer, longer. Like it should go between your knee and your ankle. That's how long a coat should be. and it will honestly look
That's-
amazing.
Patrick wants you to wear papal robes as your coat.
I totally do. You'll look so good. Like anytime that whenever I see somebody with a coat like stopping at the thigh, I'm like, you look like you're wearing your kid's coat. I have a big coat. I love getting it out this time of year. Whatever I put it over, it looks intentional. You could put it over like sweatpants and it looks intentional. It looks like you're being cool. You're doing a high-low thing. You put it over a fancy outfit and you look fucking unreal. Like it's so good. It will make you feel like $1,000,000. So yeah, that's my attitude.
It takes a lot of fabric for me to have a coat of the length that you're asking for. It's just like a big ass drapey coat right there.
Man, yeah, but they make them like you're like normal tall. You're not like crazy tall. Like they make them for you. You just got to
It's
go find them.
it's fine. I don't feel I need that length of coat. I do not need like the Arsene Wenger sleeping bag length jacket coat.
The long puffer, I think, is something that I would also object to. But
Okay.
the long wool coat, the long Balmacan, or like a nice tweed number. I'm going to send you some coats, Ted. I'm going to turn you around on this because the fabric will win you over. I think that the feel of a good fabric will win you over here because I know how you feel about a good fabric.
I do have a lovely boss coat that ended up in my wardrobe because of the feel of it. And
Mm,
it wasn't on my list when they lost my bags and I needed to replace it. And I was like, I think this is coming home with me. Don't actually necessarily need it. But now like we're like 3, 4 years removed from it and I love it. And so I do understand where you're coming from.
there you go.
I have this issue, like my hands always get cold because vascular stuff that happened when I lost weight. And so now I need like the right temperature and I'm very much layer oriented and
Yeah.
scarf oriented.
Mm,
If you were looking, we've sort of talked about some things that like really special for you. A cashmere scarf for the winter time. Oh my God. Like it will just change your life. You'll find that you love a piece of clothing, especially if you're sort of in a slightly windy place
mm.
or like it is outrageous the quality of life improvement that you get from a scarf that like you love just cuddling your neck and also helps regulate your temperature at all times. Just saying.
No, I completely agree. Like I've got a couple of you can actually thrift cashmere scarves really well, because they're the
Wow.
kind of thing because they don't have a lot of wear and tear, and they're things that people kind of like have for a long time, and they're like, I don't really wear this very much, and so I've thrifted one, and then I have a Beg and Co cashmere scarf, which is like one of the craziest things I own. But yeah, I you can find these quite easily if you go on Vinted or eBay or whatever. Really good quality ones. I
Yeah,
recommend that.
and if you want a new one because you're worried about wearing things that other people have sweated in and stuff like that, like
Dyed in.
Uniqlo also produce like really, really lovely ones. So, they obviously it's not perfect in terms of like the cashmere or whatever, but if you wanted just an onboarding ramp, like that's a quality one. Are you like a narrow scarf person or are you like I want a poncho Mexican blanket type scarf that I just happen to fold and wrap around my neck enough times?
I care less about the width than I care about the length. Like, I really hate short scarves. I like scarves that can really like wrap around and do some business.
Do some business.
Yeah, I don't know, like the normal width, I would say, but it needs to be that like these kind of thin scarves. Like no, like all that kind of like thin stuff. I think that's like an accessory, So I quite like those thin silk ones people will wear instead of ties with like a suit or something. But that's not a warmth thing. So no, I need a big, not Lenny Kravitz style, but like big, you know. What about you? Like, surely you agree. I mean, if you're going cashmere, you're going cozy, so you need it big and chunky and cozy.
In some cases I need it moderate size to go along with everything else I got going on because like too much scarf like you can feel like all congested.
Mm-hmm.
I do like a big one. One of the issues with big ones is like especially depending on what the material is, like it's just shooting off bits of itself forever. Like you're like, oh God, there's like little wool pieces everywhere. Like when is this going to stop? And the answer is like possibly never. Yeah. So I think that that's a great place to stop. I think we've given you lots of good advice on how we both walk through the world and how you might also walk through the world. Thank you so much for listening to us and sending us all your questions because that's where this came from in the first place. Tell your friends, tell your girlfriends, tell your mom, tell your sisters, tell everybody that you know how much you love us and how much we're improving your life simply by giving you decent advice because there are a lot of places for shitty advice in this world and that hopefully is not us. Tell the nice people goodbye, Patrick.
Bye bye.